Hey, Calm Board Gaming here. Picked up a deck pack from a gaming store nearby where I was working on Friday for Magic the Gathering. This particular one is Nissa, Nature's Artisan. And there are other color combination sets. Now, I don't play Magic often, so I would be considered a very casual player, but I got started very early on with the early 90s sets that were sold in bookstores and game stores right after the beta era. So I'm going to do an unboxing of this and show you guys what's inside. I've already opened this, and then I thought, why not go through it like this? Got your standard obligatory inserts with some quick introductory rules. Sorry about the lighting in here. Perforated tearaway here for some reason. Not sure why. This is going to be the card list that comes in these. Usually hang on to it for a little bit, let it sit around, and end up throwing it away, but you never know. This is Nissa, the main character you get with this pack. This foil version of the card here. Advertised in the display window of this packaging. Oops. There she is again. Here's this deck, but let's go through the cards. No spoilers. Nice box in here in the insert. The card is kind of there we go. It says, here's Nissa, Planeswalker. There's been other versions of this, no doubt. Gain 3 to gain 3 life. Starts at 5. Reduce 4 to reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Put all land cards onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. That's nice. And 12 is +5/+5 and trample to all creatures you control. So, the game win condition ideally. And I don't know how to evaluate any of these power levels. I don't play Magic at a competitive level other than a couple drafts, and that's been years at this point. So let's open the box. Now these cards were in a plastic wrap, but I've already taken that off and flipped through the first couple and decided to do this. There's 2 booster packs included in there. We'll do that last. Right off the bat, we've got a Hydra, one of my favorite creature types in Magic. They've never, as far as I know, been known to be very powerful, but they are some of the most interesting things to me, nonetheless. Myself and a number of people are, in the minority perhaps, interested in a game where strong creatures kind of run the battlefield. And that's not the kind of game Magic is or has become. You know, very quickly. It's after its release, kind of became a game of powerful spell combos and stuff for the most part. But the cool thing is you can customize this stuff, play any way you want, play with people you want, and kind of there's a lot of ways to do it. So when this guy enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy counters. Pay 3 to put a 1/1 counter on him until end of turn. He gains hexproof. So you beef him up and he gets temporary hexproof. This new counter must be something that isn't bound to a card, but is in a pool for an individual player. I can see some more on here. That, I think, would be a new concept. That's like a new economy for Magic. Let's see. And this blue-green is not known to be a powerful combo, but it is one of my favorite thematically in the game, and I just like what these 2 colors do. Aether Squall Ancient. Leviathan. Flying. Oh wow. Flying Leviathan. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get 3 energy counters. This is a 7-drop. It's not going to see much action in most games. It's also a rare, like the card before it. You can pay 8 to return all other creatures to their owner's hands. Cast as a sorcery. So, it's a fun 6/6. Another rare, Verdant Crescendo. Familiar with Verdant Catacombs is another card that's used that in the title. This is a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put that to the battlefield tapped. Search your library and graveyard for a card named Nissa, Nature's Artisan, reveal it and put it into your hand. So if you've milled yourself or otherwise lost this card, Verdant Crescendo will bring it back. That's amazing. So that's a good pairing. It costs 4, and you know, it's probably better just to have maybe more than one of these in your deck than to have this card, but these intro decks kind of use lower power cards sometimes to achieve things that you would do differently at a more competitive level. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. Another copy of that. Whoa. Riparian Tiger. You know, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a creature, cat, trample. When he enters the battlefield, 2 energy tokens go into your pool. And you can pay 2 when it attacks to get +2/+2, effectively making it a 6/6. Not a great card off the bat, other than it has trample. It's a little expensive for, you know, compared to what people like to play for a similar or lesser costs in other colors. White comes to mind especially, but you know, he's going to give you energy counters, so that has to be factored into this type of deck. Thriving Turtle. I always love turtle cards in Magic, especially Zendikar. Oh no, I'm thinking of the crabs. The head-drawn crab. Thriving Turtle. You get 2 energy counters when he enters. You may pay 2 to put a +1/+1 on him if he wants to attack. That, you know, might be useful as some sort of contingency, and it's a 1 blue mana creature, so I think that is good. I like the cheap blue defensive stuff, and he gives you energy that you could use in other ways, so that's a cool card. We've got a Long Tusk Cub. It's another cat. Now I wonder if we're going to see anything that affects cats in this deck, because we've come across 2 different ones. When it deals combat damage, you get 2 energy counters. That's great. It's only a 2/2, so it's dangerous though. Pay 2 to get +1/+1. So the way this is worded, you could never get that +1/+1 before combat damage is assigned, the way I understand things. I'm having a little coffee while I do this. Duplicate of that. Sage of Shayla's Claim, I believe. This is a Elven Druid. Enters the battlefield, gain 3 energy counters. It's a 2/1 for 2. So this is just a card for gaining energy, really. Servant of the Conduit. This card looks familiar. Elf Druid as well. Gain 2 energy counters. Oh, and you can pay 1 for a mana of any color. So this is going to be the mana elf that you see in almost every green deck. There's a number of different ways that it's been done in the past, and this just uses the new energy economy. Tap, pay 1 energy, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So it's only good for 1, and it taps this guy. Copy of that, that's good. Terrain Elemental. It's just a 3/2 for 2 mana. You know, this is a common, so we just went through the uncommons. Not a great card, maybe a little closer to, you know, it's got 3 attack for 2, so I guess it's a good vanilla competitor, but I you know, for an intro deck. Thriving Rhino. Interesting art on there. When Thriving Rhino enters the battlefield, you gain 2 energy. +1/+1 counter, so that's a permanent counter, but you only get an opportunity to pay 2 energy to add that when it attacks. But that'll take effect before combat damage. So yeah, it's 3 cost. I am curious to see how these energy counters play out. Janjeet Sentry. Vidalcan Soldier. Vidalcan. I don't know if we've seen these Vidalcan guys before, but kind of reminiscent of maybe Merfolk. Get 2 when he enters the battlefield. Pay 2, untap target artifact or creature. Okay, so this is the patently blue artifact manipulation stuff. Another copy of him. Now we have one of these gold border multicolor cards. 1 green, 1 blue, 1 colorless. It's a Vidalcan Scout Flying Trample. Oh, whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you get that many energy counters. So if you can sneak this guy through or deal trample damage, buff him up, may cause him to cause more damage, then you're gonna get some good energy off of that. Shut off there for some reason. I'm using a Canon Rebel to record this. I'm not entirely familiar with that. You know, it's funny, the iPhones seem to be one of the best devices for recording video that are just readily available, you know. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay a lot of money as far as I can tell, but this guy is very conditional. As long as you control a Nissa, you know, he's a 4/4 for 4 that has reach and vigilance, and that alone I think would be good, but the fact that you have to have Nissa out for that to pull off is kind of a gamey thing that isn't really worth it, but you know, it makes sense for them to put that kind of thing in an intro deck. There's a blue 4-drop. Oh, we're back to some rare cards. This is another rare Long Fend Sky Whale. It's flying. it can only block creatures that have flying as well. It's a 4/3. Okay, some limitation there for some reason. Thematic, but again, I think that, I don't know, I guess that's decent because you're talking about a 4 attack in the air, and that can be dangerous sometimes. Here's a rare Arborback Stomper. Arborback. Trample Beast 5/4. Enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. I like this kind of stuff though. It is a cost of 5. Now we're gonna get into our special lands. This is just enters the battlefield tapped, and you get dual mana of your choice off that green or blue. That's just very common to have 4 of those in the multicolored decks you're playing. And regular 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 11 green, 8 blue, and then we run into some rare creatures. You get 3 copies of Attune with Aether. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. You get 2 energy counters for 1 cost. That seems great. It's good. Appetite for the unnatural. This guy looks like an artifact eater. Yep. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, and you gain 2 life. 3 cost. You know, you're going to want to rotate those out if you're not dealing with artifacts, of course. There's some really harsh shadows going on here. Finally, Malfunction. Enchant artifact or creature. When Malfunction enters the battlefield, tap enchanted permanent. Okay. Enchanted permanent doesn't untap. Okay, so it's gonna lock a card. That's not terrible, it's just expensive. So 8 blue, 11 green, 4 dual color. And some interesting cards in here. I'd like to play with this deck, you know, against other decks, lightly customized perhaps at the same power level. Intro decks. Got a handful of them now. You know, I like Magic as kind of a board game versus lifestyle and major investment. But that's not how most people do Magic. You get into it and you start throwing down quite a bit of cash. So if you haven't noticed, opening one of these Kaladesh 15 card booster packs. Reckless Fireweaver. This is a red 1/3 creature. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. So, you know, it's worded conveniently for multiplayer games, which is always cool. So, that's all there is to that. Switch these around here. Inspired Charge. This is a white. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn for 4 cost. Typical white kind of thing to do. Green, white, buffing up stuff on the attack. Cowl Prowler. That's interesting. It's a 6/6 worm for 6. This is patently terrible. You know, this reminds me of the crawl worm of early days, but it was a 6/4 for 6, I believe. So, moving on. Live Fast. This is a black sorcery for 3. Lose 2 life, but you're drawing 2 cards and getting 2 energy. That's cool. I like that. Aradara Express, rather. interesting border here. This is just the artifact. Okay. The border looks kind of old school, if you can see that. It's very kind of a vintage look on there. You know, you can, how do I describe that? Really see, well, it's kind of like you can see the real simplicity of that. But the actual card art is very detailed. So it's a vehicle. I don't know what menace is. It's a new keyword text there. Crew 4. Tap any number of creatures you control with total power of 4 or more. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. Okay, so you need 4 power to activate this. So they're manning the vehicle, and then you have an 8/6 for 5. So you know the condition there is you have to have some existing power on the board as part of the cost to operate that. Eager Construct enters the battlefield. Each player may scry 1. Interesting. A 2/2 for 2. Each player scries for 1. I don't know what that's trying to do. Okay, we did get another malfunction like that came in the intro deck. And that's just gonna tap any permanent and keep it tapped. Glass Blower's Puzzle Knot. You scry 2, gain 2 energy. Sacrifice this artifact. Scry 2 and gain 2 energy. And for 2, so you know it's taking up space in your deck to give you energy. Commencement of Festivities. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to players this turn. That's interesting. This is like a fog, I guess. I think fog was 1, maybe. Could be wrong. This is my camera's overheating apparently. Embrawl Bruiser. Embrawl Bruiser enters the battlefield tapped. He's a 2-cost 3/1. Embrawl Bruiser has menace as long as you control an artifact. So menace. Usually they have the new keyworded abilities on this kind of stuff, but maybe not. Let's look here. Huh. Maybe I'm overlooking something, but I'm not sure what menace is. It's okay. You know, it's easy to find out. Servo Exhibition. Create 2 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature tokens. So 2 creatures for, and that's good in white, you know, because you're buffing up individual creatures, so you get more out of this card instead of having just 1 creature for it. So if you're getting +2 +1 to all creatures, you know, you're getting 4 in total rather than just 2. Now here's an interesting card. What looks like it has Liliana Vess on it. Oh, yeah, and Liliana to Chandra Nalar. Show them how your fire can burn. Interesting. Diabolic Tutor. She looks very skeptical of this advice. And Liliana looks like she's telling a joke. Search your library for a card, then put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Wow. So this is a 4-cost fetch any card you want, and that can be dangerous in Magic. That can be very, very good. But it's a 4-cost use once type of thing. So I'm curious to see if that makes it into any real decks. Gonti, Lord of Luxury. That sounds interesting. He's a legendary creature, Aetherborn Rogue, like some giant. Oh, I guess that's some sort of railing in this building, perhaps. He's at 2/3 Death Touch. When he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it, you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast it. Wow. That's pretty random, but if you're dealing with... you know, depending on the type of deck you're dealing with, that could be very interesting. Gonti. Acrobatic maneuver in foil here. It's a common. Instant. Exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Draw a card. Some sort of stunt being pulled off to obtain a card. Mountain. And beast token. I want to see how you get some beast tokens, artifact creature beast tokens on the battlefield at a 6/6. That could be worth looking into. Alright. One more booster pack here. Another red right off the top. Built to smash. Instant. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gains trample until the end of turn. Not bad for a 1 cost, and especially if you have this in an artifact deck. Fragmentize. So, whereas here you're, you know, saying this artifact was built to smash, so it gets trample, you know. Here you're smashing an artifact or something into bits. Destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less. Okay. Nothing big then. Weldfast Wingsmith. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Weldfast Wingsmith gains flying until end of turn. Wow, all artifact manipulation with a lot of gold. Return creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That's cool for 3. Wild Wanderer. When Wild Wanderer enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So it's a creature that gets you a basic land. Costs 4. We'll know about that. Lawless Broker. When it dies, you get a +1/+1 on a creature. It's a 3/2. Not great. Now we've seen this. Destroy an artifact or enchantment, gain 2 life. Could come in handy depending on what you're up against. Accomplished Automation. Another artifact thing. Fabricate 1 when this creature enters the battlefield, plus a +1/+1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. So it costs 7, and it's a 5/7. And your only option is to build a little miniature shoulder man on this guy, apparently, or let that guy go off on his own. So it's either, you know, +1/+1 or a 1/1 creature separately. Tezzeret's Ambition. Draw 3 cards. If you control no artifacts, discard a card. It costs 5. Iron League Steed. Another artifact creature construct. It has haste. It's a 2/2. It has Fabricate 1 as well. I wonder what the intended use of the Fabricate is. Fairgrounds Warden. What's going on with that guy? Dwarf Soldier. When he enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until he leaves the battlefield. Sorry you got kicked out of the fair. Glimmer of Genius. Blue, 4 cost. Scry 2, draw 2 cards. You get 2 energy counters. I believe this was in the intro deck. That could be pretty useful, but such a high cost. Insidious Will. Choose 1. Counter target spell. You may choose new targets for target spell. That's hilarious. So you can kind of redirect a spell back at somebody. Copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Okay. I like that. It's 4. High cost, but that's very cool. Very fun to just have this in your hand, I'm sure. And we get a Forest and a Thopter. Now these guys have been around forever. Target artifact creature, token artifact creature, Thopter. Alright, well that's it for the Kaladesh Planeswalker deck. Nissa, Nature's Artisan. You know, I think for $12.99 it's a fun buy if I can convince some of my Magic playing friends to play at this level, or maybe, you know, with slightly customized intro decks. I think I'd have a lot of fun with this. Alright, thanks for watching.